Every Friday, Jane Fonda gets herself arrested on Capitol Hill.
Thank you, Jane!
As part of an ongoing climate protest with the group Fire Drill.
Well, you can call it radical. I think what's radical is not doing anything. We have to go out and make them do it, and we're just getting used to it. We're just beginning to work our muscles in the resistance sector, right?
Fonda has a long history in activism and controversy, like her infamous visit to Hanoi at the height of the Vietnam War, that she later apologized for. At 81, Fonda is still trying to change the world. We detained her briefly to ask why. Jane, thanks for joining us.
It's my
You're just out of jail again. What you're out there doing is what? I mean, the message is about climate change. I mean, with you, you've engaged in activism for 5 decades.
Well, this is the existential issue.
Yeah.
Over all of the other issues, this is the looming, ticking time bomb, and we have to listen to the scientists who say we have 11 years to do what has to happen. And what has to happen is we have to stop all new fossil fuel extraction, no licensing, no permitting on public lands or waters. And then we have to gradually phase out the existing extractions over 30 years and make sure that the workers that depend on the fossil fuel industry not only are trained for new jobs, but that those jobs are union jobs with good salaries and benefits that allow them to support a family.
You said Congress is bought off by the fossil fuel industry. If that is true, and that is true that the man in the White House is the same, what do we do? Where do we go from here?
Well, we get rid of them.
How do we do that?
It's too late now for moderation because of the fossil fuel industry. We have to elect people who are very brave because what they have to do, what we have to do, what we have to make them do is unprecedented.
Do you think that the party is ready to be a progressive party again?
Absolutely, and the country is too. I mean, people voted for Trump, who is radical, because they wanted to shake things up, because nobody was paying attention to them and they're hurting. It's tragic what's happening to working people. I spend time in places like Pennsylvania and Michigan, and people who used to have good union jobs that could support families and buy a house, they're now part of the gig economy.
So you understand why people are voting for Trump?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you say to people who say that? Nancy Pelosi, just one of a chorus of people says, if you put a Bernie Sanders, if you put an Elizabeth Warren, you're ensuring that Donald Trump gets a second term because Americans aren't ready for that type of progressivism.
Well, it's
You don't buy it?
No, I don't. A lot depends on how they talk to the voters, whether they really connect with the ones that are still hurting terribly. If they can understand that she is somebody who will really, unlike Trump, will really make a difference for them, then I think she's extremely electable. And a lot of it depends on how well we climate warriors can get the word out and raise the sense of urgency and help people understand what's at stake.
I mean, it seems like it's a different moment now that AOC, Bernie Sanders, people in the squad, they don't shy away from calling themselves socialists. I mean, 15 years ago.
Democratic socialists.
Democratic socialists, even using the word.
There's nothing to be afraid of in that. None of us want socialism. I mean, I have been in socialist countries and seen what that did to the environment. That ain't
one doesn't
good.
think of Chernobyl and Eastern Europe.
Yes, or Eastern Europe with foaming pollution in streams and rivers, and no. Democratic socialism is something different. There are whole countries that are being governed under the framework of democratic socialism, and they're doing better than we are, in fact.
I mean, are we in a particular moment that you've never seen and never imagined?
Never seen. I'm only 81, but even if I was 200 years old, I know that I could have said, I've never seen this before, because humankind has never been in this situation where there is literally a ticking time bomb over everything. Everything is subsumed under that, because healthcare, national security, the economy, it's all going to go out the window if we can't address the worsening of climate change. I think the democracy is teetering on the edge of collapse.
You think so?
Oh, I think so, yeah. Unless,
Really?
yes, that's why we need to go into the streets.
Yeah.
Our government is being ruled by fossil fuel, and that's a fact that can be proven. The wars are being fought for oil. Our men and women are being killed and maimed, wounded psychologically and physically because of oil. I mean, they should all be tried for crimes against humanity and nature.
Who in particular?
The people who run the fossil fuel industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I might add the politicians that they've bought off who haven't got the gumption to stand up to it.
So you want to see a sort of a Nuremberg trial for climate criminals?
Yeah, I would.
You would support that?
Yeah.
Well, you actually tried to work in some way within this administration. You called Ivanka Trump.
So I got this idea that, you know, maybe if I went into his office with several extremely attractive, very, very smart women who know and care about the climate, and a few scientists, and maybe if we got on our knees and we said to him, Donald, you will be the global hero for all time if you do what's right about, you know, that's what I thought, with beautiful women who are really, really smart.
This was your plan, was a honeypot for Donald Trump.
And I called up Jared, and I told him my plan, and he laughed, and he said, well, Ivanka's the environmentalist in the family. And so...
It means he's not.
Well, he's married to the Saudis, so she called me, and I told her my plan, and she laughed. And she said, well, let me see what I can do. And I never heard from her again. I thought it was pretty clever.
I don't want to be grim, but what does Jane Fonda do the day after the election if the results are not as you wish them to be?
I hate to even think about it. If we have 4 more years of this, we're doomed in terms of a livable future. We have to follow the science, and the science says that huge parts of the country will either be underwater, not just this country, but of countries around the world. One of the things that I've learned as I sat in California driving an electric car and doing away with single-use plastic and eating less meat and taking quick showers and all of that, I know that's important. It's important that we all do that, but that cannot be scaled up in time to get us where we have to be to avoid a catastrophe. And the solution is going to be collective action. That's why I'm saying come into the streets, put your body on the line. You've got to risk more now because more is at stake. I mean, we've seen it all over the world, that when people take to the streets in large enough numbers and make clear, coherent demands and shut governments down if necessary, they can win.
Do you think that impeachment is an important part of this?
This man in office will destroy this country. So whatever can get him wounded enough to not be reelected, if not removed before the election, but at least not reelected, is a good thing.